Hello, Brobs. We're back with Dracula Go Home by Platt. I believe this is chapter 13, maybe 14. Who knows? Chapter 12. That was close. Chapter 12. Breakfast was a mess. I dropped 3 dishes before getting them to the kitchen sink. When I cleaned up the floor, I saw my hands were shaking. Don't drop any more dishes, I told them, or we're out of a job. Seeing Jill was what gave me the shakes. She had a white Band-Aid on her neck. He got her, I said to myself. Bit her on the neck, like all vampires do. What happened to your neck, I asked. She shrugged, put her hand on it. I guess some little night bug bit me. Oh no. Look at that garmambosi of that feller. You guess? Don't you know for sure? How can I tell? I was sleeping. Maybe you ought to close your window, I said. She was peering closely at me. She smiled. You have the same marks yourself, Larry. My hand flew to my neck. My voice was hoarse. I do? She nodded. You've got 2 little tiny holes, just like mine. I guess they have a lot of night insects up here. I picked up my tray and hurried to the kitchen to look in the mirror. On my way there, I dropped the dishes. The cook looked at me. Sorry about that, I said. I looked at my neck in the mirror. There were 2 little red spots an inch apart. Bug bites? Vampire bites? I didn't know what real vampire bites were like. Mr. Claude had white teeth. I couldn't remember if they were pointed. The spots didn't hurt. I didn't feel weak. If he took my blood, I would feel weak, wouldn't I? I felt my body. Now that I thought about it, I didn't feel all that great. I knew one thing for sure. I was scared stiff. The sheriff of Hammond County was a medium-sized, chunky man. He liked to squint his eyes, and he chuckled a lot. He worked in a small white building at the end of the village. It wasn't a very big police department. I could see only 2 other men there behind desks. I told him I was a new visitor to Hammond and working for my aunt up at the Oaks Hotel. Then I asked him if he could tell me anything about the robberies I had read all about. Minus the all part, if they had ever found the jewels and valuables, or the crooks, or anything else. Robberies? What robberies? He demanded. We've got a nice, peaceful, law-abiding community here. About 3 or 4 years ago, I said, during the summer. He squinted and stopped chuckling. Well? Yes, come to think of it, that was quite a thing. Whoever did the jobs did it nice and clean. No, we never did find the haul. Never caught up with whoever planned and did the jobs either. I got an idea who did it. I wanted to say. The sheriff leaned toward me, scowling. How come you're so interested, young fellow? I told him it was for a school project. I was going to be a crime reporter someday. He leaned back and clasped his ample belly. Well, that's nice, son. Too bad you can't help me on this case. The trail has run kind of cold by now. I asked him, what about the accidental drowning of the young girl who worked in the summer theater? What about it, he asked. Are you sure it was accidental? He chuckled. I remember checking that one out myself. Ran her canoe onto a rock, that young lady did. She hit her head and drowned. Not the first one to do it in these parts either. We average a couple bodies a season. Plain carelessness is all, and most of them don't know how to swim a lick. I think I know how that happened, I wanted to say. It probably wasn't any accident at all. But I didn't say it. The sheriff rustled some papers on his desk. He was getting a little bored with the new crime reporter. Anything else troubling you, son? I got up. I wanted to ask him if they had any vampires in Hammond before I got there. But I knew that would be one question too much for the sheriff, so I just thanked him and left. On the way back, my neck began to hurt a little, so instead of heading right back to the hotel, I turned off at the cemetery. I was very careful to look around the area first. Mr. Claude wasn't anywhere in sight. I went over the low stone wall and right to the spot where I had seen him last, when he was digging around. He had dug a lot of small holes in many different places, some of them near tombstones. There was one that gave me the shivers. It was a big, shallow hole, more than a hole, to tell the truth. It looked big enough to be a grave. I walked around it, looking down at it, feeling dizzy. It was my exact size. As it doesn't focus. We'll be back with chapter 13 next time, bruv. Goodbye. Goodbye.